Hey, what's up guys, this is KDCloudy and I know this video was long overdue. I haven't posted anything for the past 3 months, but I have been trying a lot of YouTube shorts and Instagram reels, so I put out a lot of those in the past few months to keep things moving, but I'm back and I'm finally ready to talk about AMB Dolby Cinema here in Bangalore. This was South India's first Dolby Cinema and it opened back in January, and I was fortunate to attend the launch event and everything, and this was so special and I was so happy because Dolby Cinema was finally in my city. And I've had tons of fun, visiting and watching movies in the past three months or so. And also, it's interesting to talk about this particular theater in context of Pune's City Pride Dolby Cinema, which I also visited, and Hyderabad's Allu Cinemas Dolby Cinema, which opened last month. So yes, in this video, we'll be unpacking a lot of things which I couldn't in my YouTube short. So this is going to be, a long and nice video. So grab your popcorn or whatever you want to eat and sit back. Now, also one of the reasons why I was so excited about this theater coming to Bangalore is that not just Dolby Cinema is coming to Bangalore, but AMB Cinemas is coming to Bangalore. Now, AMB Cinemas is operated, it's like a brand under Asian Cinemas. It's a multiplex chain in Hyderabad. It's one of the leading ones, and it's also co-owned by, the famous actor, legend, Mahesh Babu as well. If you know anything about Hyderabad's theatre scene, AMB Cinemas is basically a hallmark of value for money and premium high quality cinema going experience. Like, having stayed in Hyderabad for a couple of years, AMB Cinemas was pretty much my go-to, and the idea that these guys were expanding outside of Hyderabad and opening their first ever chain in Bangalore was pretty amazing to me. And you kind of feel that same vibe when the moment you enter the mall building, which was built at the site of the old Kapali theatre, which was a single screen in Bangalore. And it's basically like a mall multiplex hybrid, very similar to AAA cinemas in Hyderabad, Ameerpet. And the multiplex is spread across 2 levels, level 3 and level 5. Level 3 is pretty much like a carbon copy of Hyderabad's AMB Cinemas. And you have, of course, very premium interiors, those chandeliers, shiny marble floors, all these, the typography, everything is very similar. I felt like I was back in Hyderabad. The normal Audis are amazing. I think screen 1 is a flat screen. Pretty much all of them are Dolby Atmos laser projection systems. Very nice. And the MB Lux Audi was amazing. I got a brief look at that. And the decor within the lobby areas is also very thoughtful. There is a whole section behind Kannada cinema, the women of Kannada cinema, and paying a tribute and homage to the 50 years of Kapali theatre. So that was very nice. It's a very warm and fuzzy feeling to walk through these hallways. But enough of chit chat. We head to the 5th floor now, which houses South India's first Dolby Cinema. And the moment you step in through those Dolby Cinema doors, you can immediately get a sense of how gargantuan this Audi is. This was my 3rd Dolby Cinema experience after Pune and China, and this was easily the biggest auditorium I'd ever been to. It's absolutely massive, and it's a totally different vibe compared to the rest of the theater, and it's exactly what the Pune Dolby Cinema and the Hyderabad Dolby Cinema feel like. With the interiors, carpet, seating material, and even the smell. I don't know what they're doing, but the smell inside the interiors of all these 3 Dolby Cinemas is exactly identical. Now, coming to the tech specs, the screen is 65 feet wide and about 27 feet tall, powered by dual laser Dolby Vision H4D3 projectors, a 71 speaker Dolby Atmos setup, and with 588 seats, it's one of the largest seating capacities in the city and state. Now, talking about the screen size, it's a modest number. It's at 65 feet wide, and it's fairly large. It's 10 feet smaller than Allu Dolby Cinema, which is India's largest, but 10 feet bigger than the Pune Dolby Cinema, and about 4 or 5 feet bigger than the Trichy Dolby Cinema. Now, screen size doesn't really matter as much as a hard number as much as field of view does, which is nothing but a measure of how big or small the screen appears to your eyes. And with such a large Audi with so many seats, does the FOV or the field of view stay consistent? Well, it's not the worst field of view I've ever experienced in a cinema. For that, you can easily go to Swagat Onyx's balcony seating. but it's not like IMAX level great either. So it's right somewhere in the middle. And what I like about it is that your line of sight is very clean and very unobstructed. I mean, you're just looking down straight, and none of the heads or the seats are blocking your view. That's really, really important. And I think the seating and the incline is just about right to achieve that. Now, another challenge with this theater is that there is no middle row. The middle row is basically an aisle of stairs, which is a little disappointing because you cannot ever sit at the dead center of the theater where you can get the perfect field of view. So yes, as you're booking for this theater, you need to pick a seat which is closer to the screen and closer to the aisle. But I will say though, because the seating is so curved, even if you are a little off the aisle, if it's not even the exact adjacent seats, you can get a pretty decent line of sight. You don't have to turn your head by that much. So I mean, a compromise is a compromise, but if you manage to get good seats and good tickets, I mean, that's fine. Now, another concern with the screen is the fact that this is a scope screen. While City Pride Pune was a taller ratio, 2:1, and Hyderabad's Dolby Cinema has an even taller 185:1 screen. This one is scope. Now, initially, I thought that this is not really a big of a deal, and I mean, most releases are scope anyway, except the last two movies I watched here had black bars on the sides, and Project Hail Mary had black bars on all four sides. So yes, there will be outliers like that, but again, most of the movies like your Lee Cronin's Mummy or Super Mario Brothers or Dhurandhar or a lot of movies which are scheduled for later this year will be scope for Dolby Cinema. But you know what? I really wish that this was a flat screen, because at any point of time I will always prefer black bars on the top and bottom instead of black bars on the left and right, because I don't know, I just don't like losing width to my image. And clearly there is space in this auditorium. I think this was designed to be a flat auditorium, but because of the fact that they had to include an emergency exit with railings on it, they couldn't do it. But enough talking about the problems, let's talk about the good stuff. Now, projection wise, I literally have no complaints, because the HDR Dolby Vision projection experience is absolutely peak. And I'd like to quote one of my favorite directors, Lord and Miller, who recently did a promo for Project Hail Mary, and they described Dolby Cinema as the closest thing to studio grade, and that's exactly what it feels like. It genuinely feels like witnessing, not even watching, witnessing the purest digital version of the movie. Now, having visited Dolby Cinema quite a few times in the past few months, one thing I've taken away is that, for a lot of people and for a lot of movies, the Dolby Vision or HDR effect won't be quite as obvious. Now, in my previous video, I described this visual experience as, you'll find a lot of bright specular highlights, you'll find a lot of deep blacks, whatnot, but it really varies movie to movie. Some movie grades will be a little more filmic and won't have a lot of popping highlights. Some movies will tend to be a lot more contrasty, colorful, and will lean into that effect. I watched F1 back-to-back in AMB Dolby Cinema, and then a few days after that I watched it in PVR Nexus Koramangala, which is now IMAX Laser. And the IMAX Laser experience was significantly dimmer, although it had the taller aspect ratio and it was more immersive, quote unquote, but I could tell that, it's significantly dimmer than the HDR presentation I saw in Dolby Cinema. And even though F1 doesn't have sparkly, eye-popping highlights throughout the runtime, there's this one moment, which is during the national anthem, before Brad Pitt's first big race. I noticed that there were clouds in the Dolby Vision version in Dolby Cinema, but you cannot see them clearly in the IMAX Laser SDR version. And that's when I realized that, a Dolby Vision grade will always have these subtle, non-obvious differences, which are hard to appreciate, but you'll get to notice them when you do like a back-to-back A/B test comparison. And even though a lot of movies won't have like specular highlights at like all the way up to 108 nits, I am confident that whenever I go to a Dolby Cinema movie to watch a Dolby Vision presentation, it's going to be a clean, sharp, well graded movie which is authored by the filmmakers. And that gives me like a satisfaction in and of itself. One more thing regarding the projection is that a lot of people were concerned regarding the fact that this is using Dolby's new H4D3 projection system instead of the OG E3LH projection system. And still, for now, out of the 4 Dolby cinemas which have opened, this remains to be the only one with an H4D3 setup. Now, in terms of raw specification differences between the H4D3 and the E3LH, the only difference I'm aware of is that the H4D3 is an RGB based system, so you have one laser per color for RGB, and for the E3LH, it's a 6 primary system with 2 lasers per color. Now, this does result in some differences in color gamut, but I think it's not really noticeable. But the major difference is that there is no support for Dolby 3D in the H4D3 system. So yes, the AMB Dolby Cinema is a 2D only venue. But coming back to the differences between E3LH and H4D3, I had visited this theater and Allu Dolby Cinema in the span of 2 days, and I genuinely couldn't find a single difference in the black levels or differences in brightness at all. The Dolby intro, the pre-show which they play before every movie, looked exactly the same in both the theaters. Yeah, so yes, there could be minute differences between the two projection systems, but unless you can watch the same movie back to back in 2 different theaters, which is I think humanly impossible to do, I wouldn't lose my sleep over this, because the H4D3 system is a perfectly capable system and was mainly designed to work as a single unit as a more cost effective offering for other Southeast Asian countries. But because it's still dual laser, I think it's fine and at par with the E3LH system. I still wish that they bring 3D somehow, though. Even like a polarized system would be nice, but let's see, who knows. Now, audio is something I was really surprised by, because this is a very wide audio. And there was a particular moment in F1 I remember during the Daytona scene when the engines first kick in. It felt like the bass had directionality and like detail. In other theaters, when there is a scene on screen with a lot of LFE sound, the whole floor starts to vibrate, your seat starts to vibrate, and I like that. I think in IMAX you'll experience that, but here it was a totally different experience. It felt like the bass moved from the top of the hall to all the way at the bottom. Putting it very crudely, I'm describing it really badly, but I hope you understand. I'm still yet to watch a movie with a lot of distinct overheads, apart from the demos which I watched. And the overall calibration of the audio is so solid. It's not overly loud, except for a few trailers. But it's just like so balanced whenever I'm watching a movie. So, as always, thumbs up. So yeah, that's basically it. Those are my thoughts about AMB's first theater in Bangalore, AMB Dolby Cinema. I genuinely love this theater. I've made multiple trips with my friends. It might feel like at this point there are a lot of compromises or imperfections with this auditorium, but you know what? It doesn't really matter. Because every single time I step into the theater and watch a movie, it's genuinely a magical experience. Because if you take a step back and look at the world map, you take Australia, you take Canada, these countries, they still don't have Dolby Cinema. India has 4 of them. Having this PLF in Bangalore, whereas Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai still don't have one, is genuinely a blessing for me. So I am okay and more than happy to overlook its imperfections, because this is really like a very esoteric experience we have in our hands, and that too at a place which is very accessible from the metro station. Even though people love to complain that this is in a very bad location, yes, it's inaccessible via traffic, but so is every other mall in Bangalore. Tickets are always around like 400 or 500 rupees max, 650, 700 for recliners, whereas IMAXs are charging 700-800 all the time for new releases. So this is like you'll never get to experience like a Dolby Cinema presentation anywhere in the world for less than $5. When you think about it like that, I mean, we really have a gem of a theater in our hands, and I really want to support this format and really hope that Dolby Cinema becomes as well known of a brand as IMAX has, at least in India. So yes, please do go out and support the standard. Take as many friends and family with you for your next favorite movie to watch with you guys, because India needs its cinemas not just to survive but to thrive. I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.